If you just took the NCLeX test and failed, or you haven't taken the NCLeX exam yet and you're just anxious wondering what happens after failing the NCLeX exam, then stay tuned, because in this video I'm going to hopefully give you some words of encouragement and also give you some steps you can take if you failed the exam or if you are worried that you might fail the NCLeX exam. Hey everybody, this is Thomas from Nurse Money Talk, where we help nursing students become nurses and we help nurses excel in their nursing career. And in this video, I just want to go over what happens after failing the NCLeX exam. The immediate thing I want to say, and just kind of get that out of the way, is that number one, failure does not define you. Just because you failed this exam, or you're worried that you are going to fail the exam, the thing that you need to understand is that it doesn't define who you are as a person. And then also, it also doesn't define who you are or going to be as a nurse. You'll find that if you have conversations with a lot of nurses, that many of them did actually fail their exam the first time. And many of them end up going on to having great and successful careers. I have met many nurses, very excellent nurses, some of which actually didn't pass their exam the first time, who were tremendous nurses that I would want taking care of me or my family or any other loved one if they were sick. At the same time, I've also met plenty of nurses who actually passed the exam the first time, who I wouldn't want taking care of me or anyone that I cared about. So, and the thing about like taking the NCLeX is that it gets into test anxiety. So pretty much it falls down to, are you a good test taker or are you not a good test taker? Do you have good test taking skills or do you not have good test taking skills? Both of which really, if you think about it, doesn't have that much of a bearing on your skill level as a nurse. And at times might not even have anything to do with what you actually know. You can know more than anybody else sitting in that room, but run into a situation where you get in there, the time starts and you stare at that screen and then you just go blank and you don't remember anything that you've learned. So with that said, the first thing that I want to say is just understand that it doesn't define who you are as a person or who you are or who you're going to be as a nurse. The second thing I would say is to make sure to give yourself time and permission to really grieve about not passing the exam. It's not passing the exam just kind of creates a lot of emotions, a lot of just kind of like, it can be like a self-doubt type deal, and just whatever your particular feelings are, just really give yourself time to grieve about it. Maybe it's a situation where whether it's a parent, a spouse, significant other, whoever, like just some people who you can kind of confide in, and then really just kind of get out some of those emotions. And then just understand that during while you should let yourself grieve and cry about about not passing the exam, that you really then need to move past that and get to a point where you start planning again on what you're going to do to be more successful in the future. That gets me then to the third point, which is to really then think about what happened that might have made you be unsuccessful for the exam to begin with. Is it that you took the test either too early or too late to begin with? Is it that you didn't study at all for the exam? Is it that you didn't study enough for the exam? Is it that you need to hire like an NCLeX tutor? Is it that maybe you need to enroll in some of these courses, like a a Kaplan or a Hearst or whatever. Like, you need to enroll in one of those courses and get more of a, what I would call like a systemized approach to studying for the exam. Now you might be wondering, what do I mean by a systemized approach to studying the exam? What I mean by that is that, like, I think there are some students who can, you know, maybe they get a bunch of textbooks and whatnot, and then they can kind of like figure things out on their own. And then you have like some other students who, and I think this is probably most students, who they probably need kind of like a systemized approach. And taking some of these, or taking one of these NCLeX prep classes can really kind of teach you their system of how to tackle a test. And also, and I also kind of feel like they give you like a framework on how you're going to approach the exam. The one thing I will say about whether it's getting in an NCLeX prep book or taking an NCLeX prep course is that I think it's probably best to really pick one and stick with it. So if you pick one of the main, so picking one of the mainstream ones, like, we'll use, for example, Kaplan. For the most part, I don't think you can really go wrong with picking any of the mainstream ones. But the main thing I feel like is just to pick one and then stick with it. Because I think so many times we can like bounce off of so many different like courses and preps that we almost kind of like overwhelm ourselves with so much information on how to prepare for the exam itself. Now, the one exception though that I will throw in here is if like you're getting those prep books, whatnot, for the actual test questions. Now that's different if you're just getting all these different course books just so you can have more questions at hand. Just kind of like one other tidbit when it comes to figuring out what you did wrong is that when you were preparing for the exam, did you do enough test questions? I know for me, like when I was preparing for the NCLeX exam and I took both the nclex-pn and the nclex-rn, that one of the things that I feel that helped me be successful was just doing hundreds of questions. That actually was my main study method, was that I took hundreds of questions, and then with each question I took, then I would focus on the rationale for why the correct answer is the correct answer. Actually, I avoided why the wrong answer was the wrong answer, and I just focused on specifically why was this answer the correct answer. On top of like the individual prep books and prep courses, you can actually also get a tutor if you're really needing more of a one-on-one help. And the nice thing about a tutor is like really you're kind of getting in a situation where somebody can then kind of walk you through, or hold your hand, if you will, like through like from the first step all the way up to taking the exam itself. A good place for finding a tutor is you can either ask your school if they have like a list of tutors for it, or you can actually go to nursemoneytalk.com/tutor. That is an affiliate link, and then it'll send you to an online platform where you can actually find nursing tutors and find tutors who can actually help you to prep for the NCLeX. Once you figured out what you might have done wrong and then have made steps and plans to fix that moving forward, the next thing you need to look at is when you can actually repeat the NCLeX exam and also signing up for it. I believe the current thing is you can sign up for the NCLeX exam a minimum of 45 days from when you last took the exam. So maybe look at and seeing when a test date that's going to be at least 45 days is. Now, just because it's at least 45 days from when you last took the exam, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sign up 45 days from now. I think it really just goes back to then figuring out what your game plan will be moving forward, and then trying to sign up just early enough. Because if you sign up, I mean, this actually applies for when you even took the exam the first, or when you take the exam the first time, if you have not taken the exam yet. And that is, you want to sign up for the exam in just the right time. If you sign up too early, then you might not actually be prepared for it. But then if you sign up too late, you'll forget a lot of the material. And I think it'll get to the point where like you'll have all these good intentions that, oh, for 3 months, I'm just going to do nothing but study. But I think it'll get to a point where you'll just be fed up with the studying, and you'll just be ready to take the exam. So that applies for the first one, and also for if you are repeating the exam, that also applies for repeating the exam, is you want to sign up at just the right time. So what I would actually recommend is to make sure that you actually come up with a game plan first in terms of like how you're gonna study, and before you actually sign up for the for your test date. One thing to take note of is that if you did not pass the NCLeX, is that they'll actually give you a printout. They'll send you a printout of like what topics you were weak in. So, and then you can use their printout as kind of like as a guiding point to really kind of help hone in your studying. So did you really struggle in psych? So maybe you need to then, in your study, you need to put more of an emphasis in studying for psych. But if you did really well in psych, then maybe that tells you, okay, I need to put less emphasis on that and actually put more emphasis on this other subject that I struggled more in. So really make sure you do look at that printout. I'll put a link to an example that the National Council of State Board of Nursing has. And so you can kind of go and take a look at it and really kind of see what that might look like when it shows up for you. The last point that I really want to add, if you are looking at retaking the NCLeX after not passing it, is to make sure you talk to your future employer about what happened. And what I mean by that is that many nursing students actually already have a tentative start date even before graduating nursing school. And so you might have an employer who's already expecting that, okay, you're going to graduate at this point, this is when you're going to take the exam, and then we'll have you starting roughly at this date. Now, of course, like I've already said, at a minimum, that's going to be pushed back by 45 days at a minimum. And so that could end up causing some issues for nursing students with employers. So that's why you need to make sure you stay on top of it and have that conversation with them early, so that because the last thing you want is to try to push it off and not have that conversation, and then it gets to that point where they're expecting you to start, and lo and behold, you didn't even pass the exam, let alone not even having your license yet. So just make sure that you are up front with your employer, because there's no way you're going to hide it. I mean, they're going to go for a verification. They're going to check that before you start. So there's no way you're going to be able to hide it. That's why the best thing is to just make sure that you are being proactive about it. The last thing I want to mention is kind of just to emphasize my first point, which is to please give yourself some grace in this situation. Taking board exams is hard it's stressful, and so much of it is really dependent on being a good test taker than I actually feel on knowing the material at hand. I will put a link in the descriptions below on some other resources that we have that might be helpful to you on passing the NCLeX exam, on studying tips as well. I'll put that in the descriptions below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like button. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section below, and I will catch you in the next one.